Welcome, we are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. Israel conducts multiple strikes on Hezbollah's South Beirut stronghold, claims to hit Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to call on Sri Lankan President Dissanayake. First high-level engagement between two sides since new leadership took charge in Colombo. India and U.S. ink pact to cooperate on critical battery mineral supply chains. And with an eye on maiden ICC World T20 trophy, Indian women's cricket team all set to take on New Zealand in the opening encounter in Dubai. Our top story, Beirut rocked with fresh explosions late Thursday after Israel conducted multiple strikes on Hezbollah's South Beirut stronghold. Loud blasts have been reported near Beirut's international airport, which borders the suburb of Dahieh. Hezbollah's stronghold in the city and a continuing target for Israeli airstrikes. A source close to Hezbollah said Israel had conducted 11 consecutive strikes on the group's South Beirut stronghold late Thursday. Israel claimed to hit Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters in the city as troops battled terror groups' armed men near the border. Earlier, the Israeli military called on civilians near two buildings in southern Beirut to move away ahead of an air raid. And explosions were heard amid wailing sirens as multiple rockets were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system over the northern city of Haifa on Friday. Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group said on Thursday it had targeted Israel's Sakhan base for military industries in Haifa Bay with a salvo of rockets. And planes were taking off and landing at Beirut Rafik Hariri International Airport on Friday amidst Israeli strikes. The airport is in southern Beirut, which is also where the southern suburb of Dahieh, a stronghold of Hezbollah's armed group, is located. The area came under renewed Israeli strikes near midnight on Thursday after Israel ordered people to evacuate. And Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi landed in Beirut, where he will meet Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati and Speaker of Parliament Nabi Berri, Hezbollah's close ally. And the Israel Defense Forces on Friday announced that they had killed Mahmoud Youssef Anisi, a senior terrorist involved in Hezbollah's precision-guided missile manufacturing chain in Lebanon. In a post on social media platform X, the IDF said that Anisi was a key source of knowledge and possessed significant technological abilities in weapons manufacturing. The IDF further said it will continue to act against the threat posed by Hezbollah. The Israeli military also said it killed the head of the Hamas network in a strike on West Bank's Tulkarm. In a statement, the military identified the Hamas operative as Yahi Yasser Abad al-Razek Ufe. And the leaders of the G7 have outlined their concern over the deteriorating situation in the West Asia. The leaders of the G7 nations in a joint statement expressed deep concern over the situation in West Asia and condemned in the strongest terms of Iran's military attack against Israel, which constitutes a serious threat to regional stability. The statement also reaffirmed group's commitment to security of Israel and condemned what it called Iran's destabilizing actions throughout West Asia through terrorist proxies and armed groups. Discussions to avoid escalation in the region have also taken place During the meeting, the G7 leaders called on all regional players to act responsibly and with restraint. And US President Joe Biden said he did not believe there is going to be an all-out war in the Middle East on Thursday. He also added that US will protect Israel.
I don't believe there's going to be an all-out war. I think we can avoid it, but there's a lot to do yet. We've already helped Israel. We continue to. We're going to protect Israel.
And US President Joe Biden said he was discussing possible Israeli strikes on Iranian oil sites in retaliation for Tehran's missile barrage on Israel, in comments that quickly sent oil prices spiking.
Do you support Israel striking Iran's oil facilities, sir?
We're in discussion of that. I think that would be a little, anyway.
And the escalating conflict in West Asia poses a serious threat to regional stability and the global economy. Recent missile attacks by Iran on Israel have raised alarms about potential disruptions in vital shipping routes and oil supplies. The Red Sea shipping route, vital for global trade and responsible for about 20% of the world's oil supply, is increasingly at risk. Oil prices have surged over 5% following the recent attacks, with Brent crude nearing $75 a barrel. Eurozone government bond yields inched away from multi-month lows on Thursday. Indian stock markets are already feeling the strain, with indices like the Sensex and Nifty opening lower. All right, to talk more on this, we are joined by my colleague Amit Mukherjee from the newsroom. Amit, the attacks continue from Israel and Iran is making some diplomatic moves. Fill us in with more details. What are the latest developments in the region?
Well, Abhishek, as of now, the situation is very tense out there, and everybody is focusing on what is going to happen next. Now, if you look at it, Israel suffered the last ballistic missile attack from Iran. So everybody's eyes are on in that particular area, on Israel as to what its next move will be. In fact, if you have seen in the past that Israel has been coming up with absolutely ideas which nobody can even think of. I mean, in terms of both, the extent and in terms of the nature of the attacks that Israel has been launching. Now, Israel constantly has been conducting air raids as far as Hezbollah targets are concerned in the southern suburbs of Beirut. In fact, the intel headquarters of Hezbollah was also attacked about 3-4 hours back. Now, if sources are to be believed, Israel is focusing on the commanders-in-chief of Hezbollah as of now, because if you look at what happened about a week back, the chief Nasrallah has been eliminated. But although the fact that there are rumors about new, his successors like Hashim Safedia's name has been coming up. So a lot of speculations are on that that Israel is also targeting Hashim right now. Hashim Safedia. He's supposed to take over. He's supposed to be the successor of Nasrallah. And also another important thing that is going to happen is that today being a Friday, everybody is gathering at Tehran where Ayatollah Khomeini is supposed to address, the Jummah gathering, the Friday gathering outside the mosque. So everybody is looking forward to what message Ayatollah Khomeini puts out for the world. Now you have been talking about a likely sort of a diplomatic efforts are on from Iran's point of view, but as of now, it's up to Israel how it responds to the last air attack. If you recall, the air raids, which the missile attacks which were conducted by Iran on Israel, Nevatim airport was actually attacked, and about 3 major buildings suffered major destructions in Israel. So Israel is yet to respond to that severe barrage of about 100 and almost 200 missiles which was launched into Israeli territory by Iran. So everybody's eyes are right now locked onto what is going to happen next in terms of the Israeli move. Abhishek?
All right, Amit, stay with us. We are also joined by Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya, who is former Secretary MEA. Welcome, Ambassador. Welcome to DD India. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. Sir, tell us, attacks continue in West Asia. Iranian president was in Qatar yesterday trying to rally diplomatic support. From Doha, he issued fresh warning to Israel, Pezeshkian, trying to rally the Islamic world, Muslim world. And he knew Israel could attack any moment, but he traveled all the way to Doha. Tell us in detail, what are the dynamics?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course. I think the continuing conflict in West Asia is extremely disturbing because it marks not only a deepening of the conflict and the scale and scope of the operations have been expanding. And I think this is extremely damaging, not just for the participants in this particular conflict, but also for the region and the wider world at large. You would recall that recently our Cabinet Committee on Security Affairs had met because of these developments. What it means is that when this war continues, there is the scope of it possibly expanding into a direct confrontation between the major protagonists in that region. And if there is to be a direct confrontation between Iran and Israel, say for instance, that would have huge consequences. As it is, we already see that the Israeli attacks on Lebanon have had the Lebanese army retaliating, in addition to what the Hezbollah has been trying to do. This entire situation is damaging on three fronts. Firstly, the instability in the region is extremely harmful for the peace and security of the region, the safety of the citizens and the civilians who are there, including Indian citizens who live in that region. So we are extremely concerned about it. The effects on the economic side have already been felt because we've seen that for the last 3 days, the oil prices have been going northwards, and there is the possibility of disruptions in supply chains, in the maritime links that we have. A lot of our trade, about 40% of our trade goes through that particular area. Therefore, if the continued hostilities will endanger our foreign trade and economic prospects. And finally, I think there is the larger risk because, as we know, both Israel and Iran do have larger capabilities in terms of military and technology. And we do not want either of these countries to be pushed to an edge where they have to take very desperate measures. So I think the approach that the Indian side has taken, which is absolutely the right one, which is to call upon both sides to cease hostilities and look for a diplomatic solution. However, we are also realistic about this. We know that the situation is very supercharged over there, and we hope that better sense will prevail.
Amit, sir, Ambassador, sir, stay with us. We'll come back to you. But Amit, Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei is already addressing, issuing a rare sermon. What do we understand his rare public appearance?
Well, Abhishek, Khamenei, whatever he speaks during this sermon on the Friday's prayer meeting, is going to define what the intentions to a certain extent of Iran is as far as this conflict is concerned. But certainly one thing is very clear, that Israel is planning to retaliate what it faced about 3-4 days back. As the ambassador rightly pointed out, situation out there is very tense. Meanwhile, Israel is also conducting combing operations in Gaza, where they have reportedly recovered, they have evacuated another Israeli citizen who was abducted last October, on the 7th of October, when the Hamas squads actually infiltrated the Israeli territory, and they abducted Israelis from back to Gaza. So that is happening. Constant air raids are ongoing on Hezbollah headquarters and locations in Lebanon right now. So again, it's going to define as to what is Iran's next. Khamenei's statement would again define what's Iran's next step is going to be. And just talking about diplomacy would not really work, because they have to make their intentions very clear. It has either to kind of address in a way that that talks about de-escalation of the ongoing conflict right now in that region. So unless and until both sides come up with some positive statement, concrete statement regarding ceasefire or some sort of a de-escalation, I don't really think the situation, because the ground realities are different where attacks are going on. Talking diplomacy on the other hand when attacks are on doesn't really make sense. Abhishek?
All right, Amit, we'll leave it at that for the time being, but yes, we'll keep taking updates from you. Ambassador, I'll come to you again. Israel is fighting with multiple opponents, multiple countries all linked together with one player, Iran. And Israel has the support of US, Iran has its proxies. Where do you think the war is heading?
I think what we do see is that when the war was declared after the gruesome 7th of October incident in which Hamas and Islamic Jihad were primarily responsible, the war declaration itself was against Palestinians in Gaza. But we have seen that this particular attack against Palestinians was not confined to Gaza, and there had been a lot of attacks in the West Bank as well. We also noticed that the supporters of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, the proxies of Iran in Lebanon, and that is the Hezbollah, and the Houthis from Yemen were particularly active in combating the Israeli attacks on Palestinians. There was, as you would notice, and even today we do not see any particular significant support or contribution of other Arab countries. You know, they have not joined the effort on either side. And so in some sense, the escalation that is happening is going up exponentially between Iran and Israel, and the others in the region are in a sense not active in this particular scenario. And in fact, some of them have also said that they do not wish to be involved. This is rather unfortunate because the conflict, if it goes up every step, and every action will have a retaliation in that particular context. It doesn't need to be a case of where did it begin, but where will it? And that's why I think even though the situation is very tense, it is important for the back channels to be urging both sides that there is a need to de-escalate. But otherwise, this continuous tit for tat will see them nowhere, and it will imperil the security of Israelis in Israel. It will imperil the security of Iranians in Iran and its proxies in the neighborhood.
But Ambassador, last question before we leave you. I mean, if Israel attacks Iran, Tehran will need more retaliatory options, and West Asia will remain trapped in a cycle of violence. How will this war end? Who can play a mediator role?
Well, I don't think a mediator is somebody who's very welcome in this particular situation at present, because you've seen that there have been voices within the American community as well who've urged for a lessening of the intensity, whether there has to be reciprocal action, proportionality has sometimes been lost out. So I don't think mediators at this stage will have a very large voice. But I think what the major powers who are behind this will have to tell each side that there is need for de-escalation. I think at the end of the day, the two sides will just have to de-escalate. I don't see any possibility for any direct negotiations between the two sides at this stage. If it were to happen, it'll happen at a later date. But the major powers will have to come in and urge the two sides to calm down.
Major powers will play an important role, and they need to tell that, yes, we need to de-escalate. Thank you, Ambassador Bhattacharya. Thank you for giving us your precious time. Moving on to our next story now. Russia launched an overnight drone attack on critical Ukrainian energy infrastructure. The Ukrainian Air Force said that it shot down 9 of the 19 drones launched by Russia. The attack damaged an apartment and a business administrative building, but it did not cause any casualties. The strike comes a day after Russia captured a key city in Donetsk. Meanwhile, a fire erupted at a fuel storage facility in Russia after a Ukrainian drone strike. And Ghana has confirmed its first case of Mpox this year. According to the country's health service, the patient, a young male, is experiencing fever, rash and body pains. Health officials have identified 25 close contacts who are now being monitored. Ghana previously recorded Mpox cases in 2022 and 2023. And the World Health Organization authorized Abbott Laboratories' Mpox diagnostic test for emergency use, the first such approval in the agency's effort to bolster testing capabilities in countries facing outbreaks of the disease. The real-time PCR test, Alinity MPXV assay, enables detection of Mpox virus DNA from human skin lesion swabs. The WHO said, adding that it was designed for use by trained clinical laboratory personnel. The agency said it was evaluating 3 new Mpox diagnostic tests for emergency use and was also in discussions with other manufacturers to expand the availability of Mpox diagnostic tools. Now, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory captured on Thursday an X9 class solar flare, the strongest of the solar cycle, in 2 ultraviolet wavelengths. According to NASA, these solar flares are intense releases of energy from the sun which can impact radio communications, electric power grids, navigation signals and pose risks to spacecraft and astronauts. Alright, now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A new evidence in connection with the Menendez brothers has come to the light and is under review by Los Angeles authorities, USA. It is believed that this could change the dynamics of current predicament of the brothers who are serving life in prison without parole for the murders of their parents. And the Moroccan government has announced the extension of emergency financial aid for residents affected by the Al Huz earthquake for an additional 5 months. This came during the 12th meeting of the Interministerial Committee in charge of the General Reconstruction and Rehabilitation Program for the areas affected. Now, dock workers' strike that threatened the U.S. supply chain weeks before an election is over, just days after it began. A shutdown that lasts more than a few weeks has the potential to raise prices and create shortages of goods throughout the country, along with the tight presidential election approaches. Here's more.
U.S. dock workers will return to work after a 3-day strike after the union and port operators reached a deal. The strike paralyzed 36 ports across the U.S. coastline. 2 sides have now reached a tentative agreement on wages. The president of the association reacts following the announcement.
I'm happy for them so they can get back to work and take care of their families. I mean, they've been out here for 3 days around the clock, so this is a good thing for everybody. It's a good thing for the state, the port, and all the members here and all their families.
Media outlets claim that a proposal for 62% salary increase over 6 years resulted in the handshake. The unions called for a strike after negotiations stalled over wage increases and protection against automation-related job loss. The strike arrived at a politically precarious time, just 1 month before the U.S. presidential election on November 5th. The tentative agreement has, however, relieved the political pressure. Republican former President Donald Trump had blamed Biden for the crisis. U.S. President Joe Biden celebrated the suspension of the strike and said the dock workers are going back to work.
The dock workers are going back to work, and the next 90 days we're going to settle everything.
Analysts had cautioned that a lengthy strike could pose a major headwind to the U.S. economy, leading to shortages of some items and lifting costs at a time when inflation has been moderating. Bureau Report, TT India.
As U.S. presidential election is just a month away, candidates are making their last-moment pledges to voters, and voters too are making final assessment for their choice. Here's a report by DD India's Akhilesh Suman on latest trend in U.S. elections.
The advanced polling in some US states is already open, and the candidates are trying to ensure that their supporters cast their votes early, ensuring any possibility of them wavering to new promises from the rival camp is neutralized. On Thursday, at a rally in Michigan, Republican candidate and former US President Donald Trump encouraged his supporters to cast their votes early. He categorically stated that if elected, he will ensure that no state will be able to ban petrol-powered cars or trucks.
Well, I'm president. No state in America will be permitted to ban gas-powered cars or trucks, and I guarantee it. No way.
There is no let-up in Trump's targeted attack on the Democratic candidate and US Vice President Kamala Harris. He called her a liar amidst loud approval of his supporters.
So you have to tell lying Kamala that we've had enough, Kamala. We can't take you anymore. We're not going to stand for it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get out. You're fired. You're fired. Get the hell out of here.
On the other hand, Trump's own ship is being deserted at an alarming regularity now. Harris continues to be endorsed by a number of Republican supporters and voters. In Arizona, many Republican voters openly declared their support for the Democratic candidate.
That Republicans are saying that that is not our party, that Donald Trump does not represent us, that we have to find a leader that we are proud to vote for to become the President of the United States.
Liz Cheney, daughter of former US Vice President Dick Cheney, also came out in a rally with Harris, vowing her support against her Republican Party's candidate. She had voted to impeach the former president for inciting the assault on the Capitol.
I tell you, I have never voted for a Democrat, but this year I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
The International Association of Firefighters has declared that it would not make a presidential endorsement this time, which is a big boost for Donald Trump, considering the 300,000-strong union endorsed Joe Biden's presidency in 2019. The carrier firefighters and emergency responders are considered a key voter base in crucial swing states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrived in Sri Lanka on Friday for a day-long visit. Dr. Jaishankar met with his counterpart Vijita Herat. Both leaders held discussions and reviewed various dimensions of India-Sri Lanka partnership. During his visit, the minister will meet with country's newly elected leadership. Dr. Jaishankar will call on President Anura Kumara Dissanayake and Prime Minister Harini Amarasurya. The visit underlines India's neighbourhood first policy and Sagar, which is security and growth for all in the region outlook. Dr. Jaishankar's visit aims to further deepen the long-standing partnership of both countries for mutual benefit. All right, let's go across to Colombo. DD India's Dr. Ahmed Muin Faruqi is joining us live from there. Dr. Faruqi, first ever visit by any foreign minister after President Dissanayake assumed office. What all can we expect from the visit?
This is actually, frankly speaking, if you ask me, it's a very significant moment for Sri Lanka. Primarily speaking, the entire Sri Lanka has usually voted for centre or centre to the right kind of leadership. And this is for the first time that we are seeing a leftist government that is in power. And at this point of time, people have been having a lot of hopes from the government. And the government has recognized that going forward, it will need strategic partnerships with various countries, primarily with India. And this is reflecting in the sense that the first foreign envoy to meet the President Dissanayake was, in fact, the Indian High Commissioner, Santosh Jha, as well as the first foreign affairs minister who has come to island nation of Sri Lanka to meet the president is Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Here we have to remember that India-Sri Lanka relations have been on an upward trajectory over the last 10 years under the neighborhood first policy propounded by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. However, over the last 2.5 3 years, the strategic partnership with Sri Lanka has gone to further new heights. Primarily because during the time that you're talking about, Sri Lanka was coping through the economic crisis, the peak of the economic crisis, and that point of time, India came forward with a huge, unprecedented assistance of over $4 billion, $4.5 billion, if I'm not wrong. And this scale and the swiftness with which it was executed and provided to the island nation was remarkable, and it was unprecedented. And this is something that has imprinted on the minds of Sri Lankan leadership as well as the Sri Lankan people. And expectedly, that this will have a huge amount of goodwill associated with it, and this will take forward the India-Sri Lanka relations further.
All right, Dr. Farooqi, you said Dr. Jaishankar's visit is expected to review ties between the two countries and look at the future prospects also under the new leadership in Colombo. But do you think this visit is an opportunity for India to hear about Desa Naike's plans, maybe on Indian investments, views on regional security and others too?
You see, if you look at the JVP itself, it had Marxist underpinnings and bearings earlier, but it had approached more centrist kind of an approach as the time passed in over the last 5-6 years. Earlier this year, we had also seen that President Desa Naike, when he was parliamentarian only, he was invited to India under Sri Lanka-India Parliamentary Friendship Association. And he had meetings with the Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, NSA, as well as Foreign Secretary at that point of time. They discussed a lot of opportunities that exist between the two countries, as well as investments that could happen in Sri Lanka from the Indian side. Going forward over the next 5 years, it will be a very interesting kind of a take with what will happen between Dr. Jaishankar as well as the leadership here in Sri Lanka, because they will definitely plan out how Sri Lanka will want to emerge from the economic crisis. And Dr. Jaishankar, in fact, earlier in his visits to Sri Lanka, he has talked that the way forward for Sri Lanka will not be through lines of credit or through grants, but it will primarily be through investments. And India is keenly looking forward towards partnering with Sri Lanka through investments here. And this is something which is very, very vital. Not just because it is going to bring in FDI technology, but also it's going to create jobs. And that is something which is very, very vital for Sri Lanka as of now.
All right, Dr. Farooqi, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Colombo. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Third edition of the Kautilya Economic Conclave is being held in India's national capital, New Delhi. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Pohra Devi Shrine in Maharashtra on Saturday. And the 8th edition of India-Kazakhstan joint exercise underway at Uttarakhand.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Taiwan is dealing with the aftermath of Typhoon Krathon that made landfall on the island on Thursday. The streets were covered with fallen branches of trees and broken glass windows damaged in the typhoon. Residents gathered to clear up the trail of destruction in southern Taiwan. Offices and financial markets opened on Friday after days of closure in the southern part, while Kaohsiung and neighbouring Pingtung remained shut for 4th consecutive day. And Nepal's Ministry of Physical Infrastructures and Transport inspected the damages made by recent floods and landslides to the roads and bridges. An estimated amount of Rs 20 to 25 billion is needed for repairing, restoring and reconstruction of the roads and bridges damaged in the recent disasters. The preliminary observation showed the temporary operation of the damaged roads and bridges would cost Rs 3 billion. Over 800 spots of 34 highways face damage due to landslides. All-out efforts are being made to clear obstructions at 31 places on 5 major highways. Heavy equipment and human workforce were mobilized in 29 highways to remove the obstructions. And India's Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal on Friday announced the signing of MOU to expand and diversify critical mineral supply chains between India and the United States. This development was the highlight of the 6th India-U.S. commercial dialogue, which the minister co-chaired with U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo in Washington, D.C. During the dialogue, both leaders reaffirmed their commitment to driving outcome-oriented actions to ensure steady progress on key priorities throughout the year. In a press conference, Minister said that in today's time, India-U.S. relations are transcending politics.
The Honorable Prime Minister was here, the Honorable Defence Minister, Foreign Minister, and I have already been here, and next week the Honorable Finance Minister will be here. Only to share with you that the US-India relationship is today transcending politics. We have worked with 3 administrations, Mr. Modi's tenure. We had Obama administration, Trump administration and Biden administration.
And Minister Piyush Goyal delivered the keynote at the CSIS Center for Strategic and International Studies event on India's evolving manufacturing landscape in Washington, D.C. The minister discussed how historic reforms, diversification and localized supply chains are transforming India into a global manufacturing powerhouse. He also highlighted the Make in India initiative's role in positioning the country as a key beneficiary of shifting global supply chains, presenting great opportunities for investors.
When we talk of working amongst trusted partners, India figures high on the list of most parts of the world. And therefore, I believe that our effort to maintain the manufacturing ecosystem in India, even despite all the challenges we inherited in 2014 and the COVID crisis of 2.5 years, the 2 wars that continue to subsist, threatening to escalate, with the Red Sea crisis having affected our international trade, with all of these challenges, the fact that Indian economy grew by 90% when the world economy grew by about 35% in the last 10 years. And we have maintained our manufacturing share at 17% despite all these challenges inherited and faced in the last 10 years. Gives us the courage of conviction and confidence to believe that we can aspire to take Indian manufacturing to about 25%.
And the 3rd edition of the Kautilya Economic Conclave is being held in India's national capital, New Delhi. Delivering the inaugural address on Friday, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted the factors that have led to India's growth story in the last decade. The minister also noted that the government aims to reduce the fiscal deficit from 5.6% in financial year 2024 to 4.9% in financial year 2025.
Our government continues to uphold its commitment to reducing the fiscal deficit. Aided by buoyant revenue generation, restrained revenue expenditure growth, and healthy economic activity, the fiscal deficit is estimated to decline further from 5.6% of GDP in FY24, I'm basing on provisional actuals, to 4.9% in FY25. The commitment to fiscal discipline will not only help keep bond yields in check, but will translate to lower economy-wide borrowing costs.
And the conclave will run until the 6th of October. This year's conclave will focus on several themes, including financing the green transition, geo-economic fragmentation, and the implications for growth and principles for policy action to preserve resilience, among others. And in an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Ajay Mishra, chief economist of OECD Alvaro Pereira hails India's economic growth story and hope that energy transition policies would attract more investment.
I have with me the chief economist of OECD, Mr. Alvaro, on DD India. Sir, thanks very much. I just want to understand that the reforms which is being undertaken in India, how does the OECD view it, and what exactly is the point of view of Indian growth story as of now?
Well, right now India is the growth champion of the G20, and it's not by chance. This happens for the simple reason that in the past few years there's been very bold reforms to improve the business environment, to foster competitive federalism, which I think is paying big dividends, but also big reforms like the GST and many areas trying to give the state as well to become more competitive. And initiatives like Make in India, which I think will have significant repercussions not only in the medium but also in the long term. And so what this means is that basically, together with a big investment in improvement in infrastructure and in skills, so investing in education, this is allowing India to grow very fast. And I sincerely think that if this reform momentum continues, and with the strategic vision that we've seen in the past few years, I think we're going to continue to have very strong growth for India.
Going forward, how do you see the energy transition as an issue, and what path should India take? Because there is lots of discussion on this very issue, that what are the measures that the developing nations as well as the developed nations should take on this very important issue of climate change.
Well, listen, the green transition means that, according to some estimates, about 4 trillion euros or in dollars will have to be invested every year. It's a great opportunity. I think India, because it already has a lot of renewables, and again because it's developing, is very based also on services. But even on manufacturing, I think it's based on a lot of renewables as well. There's a great opportunity for India.
Lord, thanks very much for speaking to DD India, and I appreciate for your time. So the energy transition is very key for the economic reforms going forward, and we might expect some great investment in that sector as per OECD. Ajay Mishra, DD India, New Delhi.
And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Pohra Devi Shrine in Washim district of the Western Indian state of Maharashtra on Saturday. DD India's Yogesh Sheetal tells us more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will travel to Washim and perform darshan at Jagdamba Mata Temple in Pohra Devi. The PM will also pay tribute to samadhis of Sant Sevalal Maharaj and Sant Ramrao Maharaj in Washim. Prime Minister will also inaugurate the Banjara Virasat Museum, celebrating the rich heritage of the Banjara community in Maharashtra.
Pohra Devi Shrine is of great religious significance for Banjara community, and it is believed that this is the Kashi of Banjaras. Narendra Modi has always been close to this community even before he took charge as the Prime Minister of India.
Pohra Devi, located at Manora Tehsil of Washim, is considered to be the most sacred shrine of the Banjara community. Prime Minister will also hold a mega rally. In line with his commitment to empower farmers, the PM will disperse 18th installment of the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, worth about 20,000 crore rupees, to around 9.4 crore farmers. Prime Minister will also dedicate to the nation more than 7,500 projects under the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. Further, Prime Minister will dedicate 5 solar parks with a total capacity of 19 megawatts across Maharashtra under the Mukhyamantri Saur Krishi Vahini Yojana 2.0. Banjara community's glorious history of fight against oppression has been well documented, and Prime Minister Modi has highlighted it on various occasions.
Narendra Modi had started his political campaign for 2014 general election from Washim Yavatmal constituency. Now this time he will address a gathering as a 3-time Prime Minister. Now coming to Banjara community, out of 288 assembly constituencies, 35 are quite sensitive when it comes to the voters from Banjara community, and that's the reason this rally will play a quite important role ahead of Maharashtra assembly election. With my colleague Ram Dhankar, I am Yogesh Sheetal from Maharashtra for DD India.
Let's still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. In Europa League, Manchester United draws at Porto as Bruno Fernandes gets sent off for the second time. Coco Gauff beats Ukraine's Yulia in 3 sets to reach China Open semi-finals. And rehearsals for the Indian Air Forces show takes place at Chennai's Marina Beach. We'll get you the visuals.
India is one of the countries most affected by the impacts of climate change. So what can be the solution, and can children become a part of the solution?
We show a picture of the amla berry, for example, and discuss their nutritional value. In this way, they begin to understand the value of different fruits and vegetables, and that's when they realize why it's important to eat these things.
If we convert this 120 million ton that we see into biochar, we see about roughly about 350 million tons of CO2 emission reduction.
We can cultivate and use in a responsible way, and maybe how small-scale community enterprises could start to use it as a way to support their local economy.
This is a golden era of the Indian chess, with both the men's and women's team winning gold at the Olympiad. What do you think is driving this incredible success for Indian chess on the global stage right now?
Some level it was always bound to happen, and India has come very close in some Olympiads, and then they unfortunately couldn't get the gold medal, but this year I think was the golden year and we managed to get it.
How you maintain your focus, your composure during the tournament?
Just try to focus on one thing at a time. Helps me get into the groove, get into the mode. Focusing on the current moment really helps.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. The President of India, Draupadi Murmu, took part in a global summit on spirituality for clean and healthy society at Mount Abu in the northwest Indian state of Rajasthan this morning. On this occasion, India's President stressed on the importance of spirituality and its interconnection with cleanliness.
संतुलन और शांति लाने का मार्ग है। ये एक स्वस्थ और स्वच्छ समाज के निर्माण के लिए भी आवश्यक है। आध्यात्मिकता हमारे निजी जीवन को ही नहीं बल्कि समाज और धरती से जुड़े अनेक मुद्दों जैसे सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट, इन्वायरमेंटल कंजर्वेशन और सोशल जस्टिस को भी शक्ति प्रदान करती है। अन्न, जल और वायु की शुद्धता से समग्र जीवन शुद्ध और स्वस्थ हो जाता है।
And India's defence sector has seen remarkable growth, with domestic production reaching a record rupees 1.27 lakh crore in 2023-2024, and this marks a 16.7% increase over the previous year and a staggering 60% growth compared to 2019-20. The synergy between public and private sectors has been a cornerstone of this success. SIDM Annual Session 2024 and Champions Awards saw 85 nominations across 12 categories. DD India's Anil Thomas has the details.
India's defence sector is on a roll, with domestic production reaching a record of 1.27 lakh crore for the year 2023-24. A significant 60% of this growth is attributed to the private sector, highlighting the maturing defence industrial base of India. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, speaking at the opening session of the SIDM Annual Session 2024, stressed the importance of SIDM as a platform to determine the future direction of India's defence manufacturing.
ये मंच वास्तव में भारत के डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के फ्यूचर की दिशा तय करने का एक बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट मंच बन गया है। ऐसा मैंने पिछले 4-5 बार में जब भी यहाँ आया हूँ देखा है। और इस बार के एनुअल फंक्शन की आप सबने जो थीम रखी है, एम्पावरिंग इंडियन डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री, कैटलाइजिंग एक्सपोर्ट्स एंड इंडिजिनस इनोवेशन, यह थीम आपके विजन को दिखाती है और आपके विजन के साथ साथ ये डिफेंस सेक्टर में आत्मनिर्भरता की ओर भारत सरकार के संकल्प को भी यह दर्शाती है।
The defense industry can only be empowered for the future if it understands the nature of future threats and the way they are going to manifest actually.
The defense industry can only be empowered for the future if it understands the nature of future threats and how they're going to manifest actually, and how the Indian armed forces are actually visualizing it. To some extent, Baba Kalyani did make a mention of AI, machine learning, and new technologies, which are going to revolutionize warfare in the future. So the industry has to understand as to how Indian armed forces are seeing how this warfare is going to unfold and how they are going to fight.
To boost defense manufacturing, 7 domains have been recognized for establishing testing facilities in the defense industrial corridor in India.
Easing of licensing procedure has also provided companies with better opportunity to get finance from institutions. In last 7-8 years, there is almost 200% increase in the number of defense licenses issued by the government to various industries. FDI policy has also been liberalized. Friends, promotion of innovation and technology development is also a priority area where government is making a special effort.
The annual summit also saw an MOU signed between AICTE and SIDM. Private defense companies were recognized for their stupendous achievement across 12 categories. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
And the 8th edition of India-Kazakhstan joint exercise Kazan is presently underway at Surya Foreign Training Node, Oli, Uttarakhand. The Kazan joint military exercise between India and Kazakhstan is based on theme to conduct joint sub-conventional operations under Chapter 7 of United Nations mandate. The exercise commenced on 30th September 2024 with an aim to enhance interoperability between Indian and Kazakhstan forces with special emphasis on counter-terrorism operations. Indian contingent comprising of 120 personnel is being represented primarily by a battalion from the Kumaon Regiment and Indian Air Force along with personnel from supporting arms and services. The Indian troops also demonstrated their skills in army martial arts routine to the Kazakhstan contingent, where hand-to-hand combat abilities were showcased. And the 40th Raising Day of Railway Protection Force was held in Nashik. On this occasion, India's Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav inspected the parade. During the ceremony, the Railway Minister distributed medals in various categories and launched the Hindi version of the Sangyan app. The Railway Minister also released the book Indian Justice Code. On this occasion, he said that railways are the backbone of the Indian economy and there is no question of its privatization.
2014 में प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने नेतृत्व संभालने के तुरंत बाद में one of the first things he did was रेलवे के कंप्लीट ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का एक पूरा प्लान बनाया और उसमें जो इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए था हर तरह से टेक्नोलॉजी का इन्वेस्टमेंट, फाइनेंशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट, मैन पावर में जिस तरह से ट्रेनिंग की कैपेसिटी बढ़ानी हो, उन सब के ऊपर एक बहुत विशेष ध्यान देके एक मेथोडिकल वे में एक बहुत सिस्टमेटिक तरीके से रेलवे में कई तरह के नए सुधार किए। आने वाले 5 वर्षों में यानी मोदी जी की इस ऐतिहासिक तीसरी टर्म में रेलवे का एक पूरा नया स्वरूप उभर के आएगा।
All right, time now for some sports updates. Big day today in sports. India will start their campaign in T20 World Cup and my colleague Deepika Mehto will talk about it. Over to you, Deepika.
Thanks and good afternoon, Abhishek. As you said, today we've got the biggest update from cricket for women's, as India is all set to begin their T20 Women's Cricket World Cup campaign against New Zealand in their opening encounter at Dubai's International Cricket Stadium. India, who've got a tough challenge in front of them, would like to begin on a victorious note to avoid tournament pressure. Let's take a look at this pre-match preview.
Second day of Women's T20 Cricket World Cup will witness the highly anticipated match between India and New Zealand in action at Dubai's International Cricket Stadium. The women in blue will be hoping to get off to a strong start, who are placed in one of the toughest groups at this edition of Women's T20 Cricket World Cup. Though India and New Zealand both are yet to lift a T20 World Cup title trophy, both have endured similar and remarkable journeys in the history of the tournament. Well, India hold an underwhelming record against New Zealand in women's T20I, winning only 4 of their 13 meetings. New Zealand have also won 4 of their last 5 clashes against India, including their last meeting in 2022. But for New Zealand, after their disappointing group stage exit in 2023 edition in South Africa, their goal will be to clear that hurdle this time around and will be focused on taking it one game at a time. New Zealand have opted for continuity, retaining a core of experienced players from 2023 edition in South Africa. As for India, after a smooth run during the much of the Asia Cup in July, they faced a reality check in the finals where Sri Lanka defeated them. The pitch at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium will provide an equal amount of assistance for both bowlers and the batters. The surface at the venue has historically been slower and will be no different on Friday. Placed in the group of death, both the teams would like to begin their campaign with a victory to avoid pressure in upcoming matches at the tournament. Sports Desk, DD India.
Meanwhile, in the second match on Thursday, Pakistan staged a determined fight back to beat Sri Lanka by 31 runs in their opening game of Women's T20 Cricket World Cup campaign in Sharjah. Fatima Sana's side defied the form book to beat the Asian Cup champions by 31 runs, posting 116 in the first innings and then bowling superbly to restrict Sri Lanka to 85 for a loss of 9. Now, Pakistan's captain Sana made the crucial early breakthrough to remove Sri Lanka's opener Chamaria Tapattu and give hope that her side could successfully defend a relatively modest first innings total. And her fellow bowlers kept things impressively tight, denying Sri Lanka boundaries and picking up frequent wickets as the scoring rate soared high. The World Cup will see 23 matches held in over 18 days, with all the matches in the 2 cities of Dubai and Sharjah to be hosted. On to tennis now. Coco Gauff survived a scare to beat Ukrainian qualifier Yulia in 3 sets and reached the China Open semi-finals on Thursday. Gauff, who seeded 4, fought back to defeat 115th ranked Yulia by 2-6, 6-2 and 6-2 in Beijing. She will face Paula Badosa in the semi-finals. Coco Gauff, who is chasing an 8th singles title, surged to a 3-0 lead in the deciding set on the way and sealed her place in the last 4. Coco Gauff will take on former world number 2 Paula Badosa, who disappointed home fans with a 6-1, 7-6 victory over China's Zhang Shuai. In Europa League, Bruno Fernandes was sent off for a second time in as many games as Manchester United. They drew 3-3 with Porto in the Europa League on Thursday. The Portugal international was dismissed for 2 bookable offences at Estadio de Drão, just days after he was shown a straight red card for a dangerous tackle in United's 3-0 loss against Tottenham on Sunday. United was trailing 3-2 when he went off, having led 2-0 inside 20 minutes. A loss would have increased the pressure on manager Erik ten Hag after a troubled start to the season, but substitute Harry Maguire salvaged a draw with a headed goal in the first minute of stoppage time. It was a thrilling conclusion to a chaotic encounter at the stadium. So those were the top highlights of the hour. Back to you, Abhishek.
All right, thank you for those updates, Deepika. All right, so the Indian Air Force is rehearsing for its mega event in Chennai to be held on October 6th. The air show will mark the 92nd anniversary of the IAF. Rehearsal is being held at the Marina Beach in the southern city and witness huge crowds. Here are some scintillating visuals from the day's practice.
Thunderous applause for the heritage Howard aircraft. Gugor barrel rolle செய்ய உள்ளது. இதோ உங்கள் முன்னால் கலாம் formation to the right.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.